The Guardians had a day off to think about what they did in San Diego. Will a trip to LA cure their ails and get them back on track? We'll talk about that on today's Locked On Guardians. We'll look around the AL Central, which, hey, by the way, the Guardians, they're tied for first place in the AL Central. What's everybody complaining about?
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is a true statement, by the way. The Guardians are in first place. Welcome to Locked On Guardians. It's our favorite half hour of the day. We talk Cleveland Guardians for the next 30 minutes. We hope it's your favorite half hour of the day, too. And we're glad to have you with us. We are going to talk about the Guardians' early season. Has there been some bad luck? Are there some things they're doing wrong? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about whether or not they can get back on track in LA. We'll preview that series a little bit. We'll talk about the AL Central. The Guardians, again, are tied for first place. And we'll do Hear Me Out in the third segment. We'll also might have some time for some draft stuff later in today's show. It is an off day, so lots of good stuff coming your way on a Friday edition of Locked On Guardians. Before we get into all that, today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONLB for $20 off your first purchase. Get some tickets as the Guardians are coming home next week. I am Justin Latta. I've been covering the Guardians minor league system since 2007. Previously editor-in-chief of Guardians Baseball Insider. Kirk, contributed to the News Herald and the Morning Journal. I just did my Lake County Captains preview. They start tonight. You can check that out. Next year in Cleveland.substack.com as well for all other Guardians prospect-related content. And here with you, fine folks, and Jeff, doing Guardians baseball talk every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Ellis. I used to write nationally for Scouting 24/7 on prospects in the draft. And then for whatever reason, here at Locked On, they reached out to me when they decided to start talking about baseball. Yesterday, I was I can't remember the exact number,
31.
but it was in honor of George Metkovich, the less famous guy nicknamed as Catfish, who the Guardians had acquired on April 2nd in 1947. No one got that. Today's guest, today I'm your 28th favorite blogger. I'm curious to see if anyone will get this one. Again, a deep dive going for some of you people who like history. Why am I the 28th favorite blogger in Cleveland sports history?
Yeah, totally new about that Catfish. I was all over that one. If you're all over Guardians content on Locked On Guardians, we are talking about a insider virtual meetup for the home opener, ahead of the home opener. So I threw it out to the insiders on our group Sunday or Monday. So if you haven't responded to that and you're interested in hanging out, I'll do a Google Meet and we'll just chat about the season so far. We'll talk about minor leagues. We'll talk about the home opener, all those kind of fun things for about a half hour, an hour, depending on how many people attend and hang out. That'll be Sunday or Monday based on preference, and I'll have to pick one of those dates. So the majority is going to roll on that one. But if you want to hang out with us on Sunday or Monday, or me, and you want to do that,
I'm solo parenting, so it'll just be Justin for that one.
More than likely, it'll just be me. But yeah, we'll hang out. We'll talk baseball, whatever. It'll be a lot of fun before the home opener. So let me know. And if you want to be part of the Insiders group, make sure you sign up at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGuardians for opportunities like that and other bonus content and just, general messaging throughout games and through big meetings and when things come up that are Guardians related. I'm kind of wondering, like, as a baseball player, as an athlete, like, do you want the day off after you've had a bad stretch like that to like regroup? It's only been 6 games, but like, do you want the day off to kind of clear your head and kind of wash that out, or do you think it's more likely they'd rather get back to playing, not have the day off, and try to erase that from their minds with a better performance? I always get caught between like the idea of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just want to get back at it. I think you want to get out there, get the bad taste out, and have an opportunity. The only way I would go the other way is if there is some degree of pressing. Like if there's a degree of like, okay, like maybe sometimes having the day off could benefit to avoid, because it did feel like in that third game of the series there was some pressing going on. I could be wrong, but that's a little bit how it felt to me. So I'd be curious to see how that plays out. But I think for the most part, I would lean to have that game to play.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I think they would have rather gotten back to it just because it's early in the year. You're trying to get a rhythm. They've already had, a Thursday game, day off Friday, and then, then they're having another day off. So I feel like they're probably trying to get in rhythm anyway. So my guess is they'd rather not have the day off. They'd rather they get back to it. So hopefully going to LA is what cures them. Do you think too there's like a degree of bad luck? Like we talked about some of the issues that they need to clean up, right? Like there's been some defensive and mental miscues they need to clean up. They didn't, do a good job against Michael King's changeup or Dylan Cease's slider. The starting pitching after Williams and Bybee has been terrible. So we talked about that. The Guardians, I looked it up. So far, it's super early. So like these are all just crazy stats, but they've had 52 plate appearances with a runner in scoring position so far, and that's about midway. That's about halfway in the league. The Mets are 15th at 58. So, they're about halfway through the league or half up the leaderboards in terms of at bats with runners in scoring position, and they're hitting 179 with runners in scoring position. They do lead the league in sac flies with 5, so that tells you where they're at. But they're hitting a $189 with runners in scoring position this year, and or they have a 189 BABIP with runners in scoring position, I should say, and the league average is about 277. So it does feel like there's like a degree of bad luck in there too, that they just have not cashed in some opportunities. We know that hitting with runners in scoring position is obviously cyclical, and it just depends on if guys are getting on. But they've had, an average amount of opportunities compared to the rest of the league. They haven't had the worst, they haven't had the most, and they just have not cashed in. Like I said, they lead the league in sac flies, which corrective outs are good, but sometimes you need hits to score multiple runs. The one place you can look to say they need to improve here is that they are fourth. They're bottom 4 in hard hit rate with runners in scoring position. So when runners are in scoring position, they're not hitting the ball hard. Shocking, right? Not really a shock. And they also lead the league in opposite field fly balls with runners in scoring positions. That just tells you how hard they're hitting the ball with runners in scoring position. So I'd say it's definitely in the middle. Like there's just a degree of bad luck going on here that I think will reverse a little bit too. But they've also got to shore up some things and try to infuse some of the power they were not acquired. Bo Naylor's got to hit the ball better. He's had chances. Nolan Jones has had chances. The middle of the order guys got to come through, and you got to have the bottom of the order. You got to have Rocchio and Kwan getting on in front of Jose and Santana and Manzardo. Because how many of extra base hits Manzardo had in Kansas City were solo extra base hits? Like I know he had the 2 home runs. One was a 3-run shot, right? The other one was solo.
Yeah, that one was, I believe, a solo. And it's for me, it's with those young players. It's not just that you need them to like perform. You just need them to not be a drain on your offense. Like Rocchio, Jones, and Naylor, and even Lane Thomas, let's be honest, have been a drain on this offense in the year they're going. There's no other way around it. I'm going to wait and see on all of them. It's way too early to make any knee-jerk reactions here. But that's the thing. It's like not only have they not been, some people thought that, Jones was going to kind of recapture all of his former glory. It hasn't happened. Some people thought Rocchio was going to be a potential all-star. Hasn't happened. Bo Naylor, I mean, I thought by now he'd be an above average regular. That hasn't happened. You just need them to be like a 90. Just give me slightly below average. Like they can't be down with like, sub 200 slugging percentages and on base percentages. It's a huge net drain, and it just we talked about yesterday. It's like they should have won yesterday's game, but they couldn't put things together like San Diego could. And why was that? It's because they got black holes in the lineup, and those guys just completely are going to, they can't chain anything together. Like, and we talked about that even in some of those Kansas City games. Like they would have opportunities and they weren't always cashing in those opportunities. They gotta have a little more consistency so they can actually get some things chained together. Because if they can get that, then it's transformative for all their struggles. They're still 22nd in the league in runs scored. Like they're not a bottom team. They've still found ways to be effective, but they could be a top 15 like they were a year ago.
Yeah, if you just look at some of the teams that are like overperforming, like San Diego's having a lot of luck with runners in scoring position, but that's because they're also a really good team. So, you make a little bit of your own luck, but like, the White Sox have the same record as the Guardians. They're not hitting with runners in scoring position, but they have the same record. And the Twins, who by the way are lost and they're in last place officially on their own right now. They're hitting 345 with runners in scoring position. So like they're actually hitting early on with runners on, and they're still 2-5. So like that just tells you like where things are at early on in the AL Central and in general, that things are kind of all over the place. So I don't know. It is too early. But yeah, Lane Thomas for sure has not looked like you would like to start the season. I mean, he was he was not good when Cleveland acquired him last year, and it took him until the end of the season in the playoffs to really figure things out. So they definitely need him to get a little bit better quickly. Santana's been okay early on, but what they really need is they need to get some hits, like some multi-run efforts. Like they're walking with runners in scoring positions, so they're not, they have the sack flies, so they're not making horrible outs, I guess, all the time with runners on so far. But they've got to do a little bit more, put some more oomph in the ball, and I don't know if they will, because again, like I said, where they are in hard hit rate, but um, there are still some good signs, and there's still some signs of just bad luck, and some of that bad luck we talked about yesterday. Like you said, ran into Cole. They did a good job against Cole Reagans. They won that game eventually. But they ran into that guy. They ran into King and Cease, and that's just gonna all play into it. This weekend, you don't have that. You don't have guys of that caliber. I will say, the
Soriano
pitching matchups are interesting. Yeah,
is like a step below them right now. He was really good in the beginning. Like I don't after that, I'm really not concerned. Like Kawanowitz is okay, and Anderson's just he's there because they're paying him. But it is not, like I said, it's not to the level of those guys. But I just want to say, don't sleep on Soriano.
Yeah, we'll talk about Soriano a little bit. We'll talk about Jack Kawanowitz, and we'll talk about Tyler Anderson, the matchups for the weekend. We'll talk about what the Guardians have to do to win in LA. We'll kind of look around the AL Central, what other else is going on in the Central. We might talk about some old friends. I know a lot of people want to talk about Andres Jimenez and Josh Naylor. We might throw that out there. We got Hear Me Out in the third segment, and we're also maybe going to sprinkle in some draft talk at the end of today's show too. So if you are into the draft, we haven't really had a whole lot of time since the season started to do that. We will sprinkle a little bit of that on today's Locked On Guardians.
But first, let's talk about the good people at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support, industry-leading services, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. And I don't have my just ingredients to show you because that's what I had for breakfast today. I had a just ingredients. I made my protein smoothie for breakfast. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients is partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports lines to fuel his training and recovery. Like I said, I've decided to start making it for breakfast. I just put in the scoop, put in some milk, put in some ice, and then it tastes good, and it fills me up, and I am good for the morning with my Just Ingredients protein powder. And I mentioned on yesterday's show, as someone who has allergies and has a child who has allergies, I love how well and how easy they mark. So you know exactly what you're putting in your body. So visit justingredients.us. That's literally the letters U and S. And use the code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram.
Thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day. Wherever you get podcasts, we're free everywhere. You can make sure you're hitting the download button on auto download on all your audio apps, wherever you get podcasts, so you never miss an episode. Hit the bell on YouTube so you never miss a video, because we are doing daily podcasts here, and we are doing reaction videos after each game as well. And we'll throw in some other updates. If Jeff's got some draft stuff he wants to talk about, maybe he'll throw up one up there occasionally. When I start getting out to minor league games, I'll start throwing out some observations and videos too. So be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. And we'll put some stuff in the Insiders folder as well. And we talked about the Insider program a little bit. before we move into LA a little bit and some of those matchups, I saw a comment we got on YouTube just now as we were recording. It was from I'm the Dude Man, which is a great name, but he said that he's a San Diego fan, and all the San Diego radio people out there were talking about the Guardians series, and said not one person on that radio, on the radio side of things for San Diego, thinks the Guardians are not making the playoffs. He thinks that they all think the Guardians just ran into San Diego at a really tough time. They're off to a good start this year. So, you know, we talked about like Gavin Sheets has good Aprils every year, and according to our White Sox people, and the pitching matchup we talked about. So, you know, everybody else still feels like the Guardians are a playoff team, and you know, they ran to a buzzsaw. It's not to say, again, not to say the Guardians didn't play well. They still played poorly. You can, I think that's the hard part to people. It's early in the season, so this is going to happen all the time, right? Like people overreact to 1, 2, 3, 6 games because we're, you know, used to some more things mattering. But you can't overreact to those things, and sometimes you do run into good teams, and a lot of things can be true at once. Like we don't have to say one thing is true and one thing's not. Like we can say the Guardians have some things to clean up and play better, but also the Padres are really good and they played very well and they're playing very well. So I think all those things in combination are true, and that's a good reason not to, you know, jump over the ledge for 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add. That's what we've kind of already talked about.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the LA series a little bit. So Game 1, you've got Gavin Williams and Jose Soriano. Soriano did have a really good first start. He's very heavily. There's no changeups from Soriano, which is good. You know, the Guardians are not great against changeups, so that's good. He doesn't have one of those, but he does have a sinker, and sinker's really good. That. They are bad against sinkers. They have been bad. I guess we can't say they've been bad this year because it's too soon to say that, but it's a good pitch. It was one of the better pitches in baseball a year ago. I mean, it was a plus 18 when it comes to run value. He keeps the ball on the ground. So the Guardians are going to have to do a good job of being ready to go the other way. He doesn't allow guys to pull the ball in the air, which, you know, is what Jose Ramirez wants to do. It's what Nolan Jones wants to do. It's what Bo Taylor wants to do. It's what the Guardians want them to do. So you're going to need guys like Steven Kwan to be able to go the other way with the ball. You're going to need guys like Gabriel Arias to stay back and take the pitch where it's going. He does have a good knuckle curve. He really is just a 2-pitch pitcher. Like he threw a 4-seamer a year ago. The 4-seamer was junk. It got crushed. He only basically threw sinkers and knuckle curves in his first start. He threw a couple of sliders. So he's a 2-pitch pitcher. So, but it's going to be a sinker approach for him. He did have a really good first start. So that's going to be a really tough first matchup. Like you're going to want Gavin Williams to be on. Thankfully, the Angels, like the only guy that's really hitting so far for the Angels is Kyron Paris and a little bit of Joe Adell. But like you said, Joe Adell's only played 4 games because he's been hurt.
And neither of those are everyday starters.
Yeah, and none of those guys are playing all that well. So they're not really hitting. I mean, Mike Trout's got a 650 OPS. That's early, but there's really nobody hitting on this Angels team. I mean, because of Zach Neto being hurt, they're going with Kyron Paris and Kevin Newman and Tim Anderson. So you'll see Tim Anderson this weekend. So
yeah, Paris has been almost exclusively in center field.
Yeah, and he was a top prospect at one time. His star is kind of faded. Logan O'Hoppe was supposed to be good this year. He might still be, but he's off to a poor start too.
Early.
You'd hate to go in there and see the Angels get their footing. So I think Game 1's kind of important for the Guardians. Game 2, you've got Tanner Bivey obviously goes back on the mound, so that's good. Pitching in his backyard a little bit, and then you got Jack Kawanowitz, who had a good season last year, but not a guy who misses a lot of bats. He's not going to walk you. So the Guardians against him on Saturday are definitely going to want to make sure they are attacking the strike. You know, he's going to attack the strike zone, so you're going to want to make sure you swing at those strikes because he's not a guy who's going to walk you. Average fastball velocity, you know, guys don't chase a ton against him. They have this year so far, but gives up a lot of hard hits. But he's another ground ball guy too. This is a guy who's very sinker heavy, so they're going to face 2 sinker heavy starters this weekend. So, and he's a guy who will allow the ball to be pulled in the air, but that's a pitching matchup the Guardians should heavily have in their favor. Offensively, this is a team that, you know, should be evenly matched for the Guardians. It shouldn't be a situation where things can happen in a 3-game series. Not like we're talking playoffs here. You know, anything can happen in a 3-game series. And they do have Mike Trout. They do have Jorge Soler who can run into one, but like Nolan Shawnell is not a home run hitter. He's like an OBP guy. Logan O'Hoppe's got some power. Obviously, you have Trout. Do like Taylor Ward, all that kind of stuff. So not to say they don't have things that are good for the Angels, but this is just a series that I don't want to say like, okay, look, there's no such thing as a must win in April, I don't think. But
no.
When I'm looking at this matchup in this series, Jeff, I kind of want to say like I think you want to win the first two because Soriano is going to be tough. But I think you want to win these first two games because you do have Luis Ortiz going in game 3 in the series, and
But they've got Tyler Anderson. I mean, it's not like either. It's two poor starters. And listen, you are a good team. You are a playoff team. They are crap. They have been crap for years. Like, you should win the bad pitcher face-off. If you can't win the bad pitcher face-off, and you're not going to always win it, but you should expect to win the bad pitcher face-off when you made the ALCS, and this team is a joke, is an embarrassment to baseball. Their AAA squad is older than most major league teams because they're throwing everything at a wall. They're poorly owned. They're poorly managed from the top down because everything's forced. This is it's a joke of an organization. Like, you should win that matchup.
They were throwing out a position player against the White Sox on opening day. That's how bad it was for the Angels. So yeah, you should win this. I just want to see them win the first two games because I don't want to go into that start with Luis Ortiz and just have a whole lot of unknowns because you just don't know what you're going to get out of him right now.
You got to have confidence. They, as a team,
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about the fans and in general. I'm sure they have confidence in everybody. There's a reason they're on the 26-man roster. If they don't have confidence in them, they made poor decisions at some point. But no, I think you want to win.
I think game one's going to be rough. That just might you can get away with 2 pitches when it's a sinker. It's like, to me, game 1 is the hinge point instead of game 3. Like, I have more confidence that this team's built to beat lefties like Tyler Anderson. Game 2, they have the clear advantage pitching wise. You know, I'm not asking Ortiz to be great. He's just got to be okay against a bad team. So to me, the first game's the hinge point.
Yeah, this could be actually a good thing for Ortiz to go out and face a lineup that is not that great and the organization's not that good. Maybe to get some confidence out there, that would be good for him to find the strike zone, but also get some confidence against a team that just isn't that good. So maybe this will be a good thing for him. I just worry, like, it's the last game of a 9-game road trip to open the year. They haven't been back to Cleveland yet. They were in Arizona for 6 weeks, whatever. It's going to be a tough end, and I think you want to come home and you want to win. You want to win the series. A sweep would be great to come home on Tuesday for the home opener and build some excitement at the end of the road trip on a strong note. But 2 or 3, I mean, all things considered, if they won Saturday and Sunday and lost Friday, I would probably feel better about it. But it's all about optics, right? Like, it's timing can affect the optics.
Oh, I'm just looking at it from pure matchups. I'm not worried about optics.
No, I'm not either. But I mean, you know how that is. Like,
no, I know.
It's like the Browns when they win on Sunday. People feel better on Monday. When the Guardians win on Sunday, hopefully not to salvage a series, but to win a series.
Yeah,
it feels better. I mean, yeah, it would be frustrating to lose 4 in a row and start the series off with a loss to the Angels because Soriano is good. But if you win the final 2 and you win the series, you go 5-5 and it'd be 4-5 on the road trip. You take that with a little bit of momentum going into the home opener. So. And that, like you said, that is Tyler Anderson, who's not quite as good. All right, we'll talk more about the Angels, more about this matchup. We'll look at the AL Central a little bit. We might get into some draft stuff. I know people want to talk about Jimenez and Naylor. We'll talk about that on the rest of today's Locked On Guardians. And hear me out. I've got one about the bullpen. I know, Jeff, you got one, right? Hear me out.
I've got a college. I'm going to go with college baseball for mine.
Okay, we got that. And I know we had one from a YouTube commenter, too. So stick around for all that stuff coming up. If you're trying to go to the home opener, I don't know how tickets are looking for the home opener. I know it's a sold-out thing, but I know there is nothing better than catching an MLB game live. The crack of the bat, roar of the crowd, smell of the ballpark food. I love that smell. Of course I do. If you're looking to go to last minute, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Last minute deals, all-in pricing, lowest price guarantee, all those things that Game Time offers that are true and make things easy. It takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, we know the tickets do drop closer to game time. So that means you can get an incredible deal just before the game starts, whether that's on Tuesday when the weather doesn't look so great or Wednesday. I'll be there Wednesday too. I'll be there Tuesday and Wednesday, rain or shine. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and the Guardians regular season is coming up. So you can count on them to grab tickets that meet your needs. I know I'll be using them all season long for other things, including concerts and all things coming up this summer as well. Doing that for my wife wants to go see the Jonas Brothers again this year. They're coming back to Cleveland. We're going to use Game Time because we know that last time we went, the tickets were not sold out at the last minute, and there were great prices at the last minute. So we're going to use Game Time to do that again. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work. The Guardians do, of taking pride in what you build, practicing every detail to get the best results. Something the Guardians did well last year. Hopefully it'll carry over this year and they'll fix some things. No one player, even Jose Ramirez, no matter how amazing, can do it alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the All-Stars are hardworking manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver all the things that we need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. Seeing your whole supply chain is easier. Managing logistics is easier. Responding to price changes is easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with a global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you know you need to make the most of every hardworking minute available. Easier doesn't cut corners. Easier takes the lead. Discover your success at easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com. All right, let's do a little bit of hear me out here before we get into some draft stuff and the AL Central stuff. Jeff, I'm going to start hear me out with this one. We were talking about this off air before we started the show, and we had a commenter talk about this too. I believe that every starter in the Columbus Clippers rotation is left-handed. That's so weird. It's been weird because that hasn't been the case for the Guardians the last several years. It's only been 2 outings, so I hate to be knee-jerk about this, but I would like to see the Guardians. It's not going to happen. So I'm just saying this is something I hope happens throughout the year. I would like to see either Doug Nikhazy or Ryan Webb go to the bullpen as the second lefty, because I don't know if we know what's going to happen with Eric Sabrowski. He's a 2-time Tommy John survivor. He's dealing with elbow soreness. Be great to get him back. He was good last year. I just don't know if I buy the Joey Cantillo thing in the bullpen working out. Like, he just is a slow starter out of the gate in terms of throwing strikes. It takes him a while to find it. I don't know if that's the right recipe for it. And I know you've long said this, and I kind of believe it, but I think Doug should either go to the bullpen or Ryan Webb. Ryan Webb needs a little bit more giddy up on the fastball. He's got a good changeup and slider and a good curveball. I know that's like a 4-pitch mix, but he's a little bit smaller and he doesn't have the best fastball. I would like to see at some point this year one of those guys go to the bullpen and give yourself an extra lefty, because I don't know if I buy that you're going to have like a guy that's going to join that bullpen fray as a lefty, whether it's, Kobe Allard or Parker Mashinsky. Like, I'd like to see one of those guys go to the bullpen at some point and try to figure that out.
I agree with you. I think that Casey's got a better chance of working out just because Ryan Webb I used to be a lot higher on him, and he's been great in the minors, but every team decided he wasn't worth taking a gamble on. It's because his fastball is awful. Like we talked about, say Ciccone, it's almost like if he goes to the pen, can he scrap the fastball and live off of the secondary pitches? Because that might be his fastball is his worst pitch.
He might get more velocity out there, though. That's the thing.
But it's velocity or not, it's just a straight easy. There's nothing. It's the most vanilla, bland. Like hitters.
Well, so is Gaddis's too.
I know, but you can add more velocity. I think it's still going to get hit. I don't think it's got. Like the shape, the positioning. I've heard just negatives across the board on it. Not to bury a kid. I think the secondary stuff is actually really intriguing, but I think that fastball, you want it to be like his 3rd or 4th most used pitch if he switches roles. But I agree. I think that is something that I think should happen. Before I do mine, I just want to throw this out for anyone who's like, I was mean about the Angels. I want to point out this is a team that has not been 500 since 2015. They've not been 5, and in that time they had the 2 best baseball players on the planet, and they couldn't be 500. So that's my final comment on how bad that team has been run.
They deserve it. They're bad.
Yeah. So here's my hear me out. Ryan Prager isn't the most interesting college pitcher who returned to school. Like, Prager was a guy I put a 1st-round grade on a year ago. Texas A&M, big program, but he has not been the most interesting of the relatively big name college pitchers who returned to school. And the reason I say that is probably a guy that I haven't read anything about or seen anything about, and that's Cade Obermuller at Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
Justin, I know, liked him quite a bit a year ago.
Is that Wes's kid, Wes Obermuller?
Yes, it is. So he's got bloodlines. He, I want to look. He's 21. He'll be 22 in July. But his problem in college, first year, 7.8 walks per, and he's a draft eligible junior. He was a draft eligible sophomore last year. So 7.8 walks per nine, 6.2 walks per nine. This year in his junior year, Iowa was a mess last year. I don't know if they changed things up, if they're doing something different, but this year he's at a 2.9 while increasing his strikeout rate to 12 from 11 a year ago. So while Prager's strikeouts are down and his walks are up, Prager went from 11.4 strikeouts per nine to 8.5. Cade Obermuller is an interesting lefty. He's a small guy, but in the Big Ten is vastly improved because of those Pac-12 schools. And like I talk about often, Indiana is a program on the rise. Rutgers always has a few guys. This is not the Big Ten of 5 years ago. It's not even close to that. It's a much better conference. And Cade Obermuller is, all that secondary stats are very intriguing to me. I do have to say one more crazy stat with Ryan Prager, though. Third year for him in college baseball because he missed a year due to injury. Home runs per nine, 1.1 every single year. I don't think I've ever seen someone have identical all the way up and down stats, freshman, sophomore, and senior year.
That is interesting. We had a fan hear me now from our comments. So Rokular01 said that Arias will be the shortstop by the end of the year. He said Rokio looks like the regular season Rokio so far. Arias is off to a good start offensively. He's, not walking it yet, and that might be unsustainable, but I think you did say in the comments. Yeah, I think you did say in the comments, though, that you believe there's a world where Gabriel Arias is the starting shortstop by the end of the year, and I guess that means Juan Brito or Travis Bazan is the second baseman. Travis Bazan, by the way, looks good in Rubber Ducks orange. Great when he looks good.
Maybe Angel Martinez gets it together. He's an interesting player.
Yeah, but he's playing outfield so far. I don't think they're considering him a second base. He's mostly played outfield.
Jose is going to return to second base. That's what's going to happen. I'm kidding.
Oh, that's terrifying.
When the reason I said there's a world where this happens is if Rocchio somehow is a worse hitter than a year ago, like where he was a year ago, was not good. If he has a sophomore slump, he's going to end up back in AAA because you can't have he would essentially become Miles Straw if he is any worse than he was a year ago offensively. And that's when you're like, okay, well, maybe we consider a switch or a change. Now, it's not, is it likely? No. That's why I just said there is a world where we know that is my, hey, that could happen type of a statement. But it's potential. Is it likely? No.
If Arias is hitting and Rocchio's not, and Brito, who's off to a good start offensively, it's easy. It would be easier for them to justify moving Arias to short, Brito to second, and sending Rocchio down than it would be to just say move on from Arias. But Arias has to keep hitting too.
Yeah, and if Baz is hitting, because this whole wheel play then opens up second base in AAA. So then the other part too is if you bring up Brito, send down Rocchio is your shortstop, Baz is at second base in AAA. It's a whole big wheel in your example too.
Everything's interconnected. Yeah. So I'll be curious to see how that sticks around throughout the year because Arias is off to a good start. Speaking of guys who are off to good starts, just real quickly, I know we had a lot of comments about Andres Gimenez and all this other stuff. He's off to a good year, off to a good start this year, and that's great. I mean, Andres, I think is a great guy. I think everybody here liked him. I don't think anybody wanted to trade him. I think he was well liked here, and the Guardians definitely liked him. The offense going down, the contract going up. That's how we talked about this before.
Yes,
he got off to a good start a year ago, right? The Blue Jays worked with him on some things, so there are some like tangible things to keep an eye on. He ditched his toe tap. He's going to a leg kick, which we know kind of helps with more power. They moved him back in the box a little bit, which when you're back in the box, you get more time to react. There's more power associated with that, so that does help. The thing I'll point out too, and this is super early trend, so we're not going to sit here and say this is how it's going to turn out. But one of the biggest knocks on Gimenez was his ability or his propensity to chase out of the zone, right? This is not a guy who had he didn't strike out a lot, but he made a lot of contact and chased out of the zone. So he's off to a great start, playing great. That's fantastic. No, nothing against him. He has a higher chase rate now than he did a year ago. So he's chasing out of the zone more. He's making contact at a higher rate out of the zone too. 38% chase rate and a 76% chase contact rate. He was at a 62% chase contact rate. So maybe he's making more contact out of the zone. Maybe that's sustainable. Maybe it's not. But he's still chasing at the same rate as he was a year ago. Eventually, at some point, that's going to lead to bad outcomes. You just can't chase like that with certain profiles. Maybe where he's standing in the box helps him make more contact. Maybe the leg lift does help that a little bit. So will his offense improve over a year ago? It might. Some of those changes might help his offense improve over a year ago. But I also, just want to point out, like, chase rate for him is still an issue, and that's what's happening now. And it's early. So, but good, I mean, good for him. But I also am not gonna, throw the baby out with the bathwater and just say, well, the Guardians got this one wrong, because we'll see. But those are some stats to keep an eye on. Josh Naylor, by the way, people talking about Josh Naylor, off to a decent start. He's got a 385 on base, but he's yet to hit a home run. 2 doubles so far, so no power. Kyle Manzardo more power so far than Josh Naylor, despite the fact that Josh Naylor playing in Arizona.
The interesting thing with Jimenez is, like, he still has 1 barrel. His barrels are up slightly, but he's not barreling the ball. His exit velocity is up a little bit, but not a ton. His launch angle has changed, which is probably helpful. But again, this is a guy who starts hot, and when you expand as much as he expands, eventually guys will be like, okay, so he can hit it here, but you still can get him to chase out of the zone. The problem with that profile in general, because we talked about this with Noel and other players, is while it works for guys like Salvi and Luis Robert, like 90% of the rest of the league, it doesn't work for. That's just
it's the guys that hit the ball hard, like the guys that have consistently good exit velocity. Yeah. So that's why that works. So,
and his is improved, but it's still not good. His hard hit percentages are still poor. His barrel percentage is still poor. His exit velocity is still not great. I just don't think he's going to keep some of this other stuff, and he's got low bat speed. And it's interesting, his defensive metrics are still bad, but his
which tells you why it's so early. The fact that his
defense, so early. Yes, exactly. His defense. Early. I'm not saying his defense is bad, but it just
speaks to how early it is. Yeah. All right, we'll be back with you on Monday. We'll talk about the Monday morning headlines from the Angels series. We'll get you ready for the home opener. Again, let me know if you are an insider, if you want to be an insider, if you want to come and hang out on a virtual Google Meet. I'll do that Sunday or Monday based on popular decision. But we'll talk all things Angel series. We'll talk all things home opener. We'll talk some prospects. The Guardians minor league system in full swing starting tonight, Friday, April 4th. You've got, Columbus has to play a doubleheader because they got snowed/rained out on Thursday. Akron is in action. Captains are back in action. Tugboat starting. I believe Braylon Dowdy is starting opening day on Friday for the Hillcats, so that's fun. We'll come back and we'll talk about some of that as well. So lots to look forward to next week.
Yep, it should be a fun week, hopefully after a very fun weekend. I want to thank you all for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily, do your part. Comment below. Let's see, our comment question for the day is who is the minor league prospect you thought would be good, who was not? Who was the one guy that you firmly believed in? Who is, for me, it's like Cord Phelps. Always comes to mind, but who is that guy for you? Thank you
Jared all. Getter.
Thank you all, and go Guardians, go.